Hello, guys. Welcome back to this episode of the Transfer Portal Podcast presented by NoContextCFB. I am Andrew, joined today by Hayes Fawcett by On3 Sports, also joined by Liam and Dylan. Hayes, let's start with you, man. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. How are y'all?
I'm doing good.
Doing good as well. Excited to talk college football today.
Doing great. Excited to talk some recruiting for once. We haven't really talked about it before on the pod.
It's really great because I feel like the guys that we got here today, we really know. I feel like we got a lot to offer in terms of recruiting. I keep up with a lot of recruiting here in Texas. Dylan, you keep up. It honestly feels like you follow, stock, whatever the word may be, every Oregon target in the country. So we got a really good show for you guys. Let's go ahead and let's just go right into it. Hayes, you're a recruiting social media expert for On3 Sports. Why don't you go ahead and just tell us a little bit about what you do exactly and, what inspired you to do it?
Okay, so I do announcement graphics for recruits. So now that I'm with On3, I also have to kind of interview them and write articles about their recruitment as well, whether it's their top schools, their commitment, decommitment, etc. And what got me started was I've always grew up a big football fan. I grew up around the game since I was like 5 years old. And, I was a ball boy for my local high school team, and our football team was really good. We went to the state championship and won 3 years in a row. So I was kind of looking up to those guys and stuff. And one day I saw on Instagram some cool photo edits, and I thought it'd be a cool opportunity to start doing that for our local high school football team. And it started off, like I said, doing it for them, and then I ended up somehow stumbling across Darius Geis, and we talked a lot back in the day, and I did some edits for him. And then he was All-American back then, and he went to the Army All-American week in San Antonio, and he started posting all my stuff. And then I started noticing a bunch more of these national college football recruits were hitting me up wanting one as well. And then honestly, ever since then, it's just been every class, all these top recruits are hit me up to make their edits.
Cool. So for those that are trying to get into the recruiting game, graphic design, Dylan is huge on graphic design. He's done graphics for me for about 5 years now. He's about fantastic for it. For those that want to get into that field, what advice would you give them? Is it more of an aesthetic that you want people to give, an artistic approach? What kind of advice would you give people that aspire to be in those footsteps?
Honestly, I would say if you want to do this, you got to honestly make sure that you really enjoy doing it. Because whenever in my shoes, I'm doing tons of edits a month. It'll be late. I'll be staying up late to 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning because a guy wants a top 10 edit the next day or something like that. So for me, it's really just you got to love what you're doing, and you got to be available at any time to get what they want out.
All right, cool. So we're kind of fastly approaching early signing day. Signing days obviously comes in the spring. High school football, the playoffs. I know here in Texas, the brackets just came out today. Across the country, playoffs have already been going out. Let's go ahead and let's just go into crazy recruiting stories that we know of. It could be commitments, decommitments. We're gonna do a bit of a round table on this one. But Hayes, when it comes to you guys have been in it, when we're talking crazy recruiting headlines, outtakes, whatever the situation may be, what sticks out most to you?
Off the top of my head, last year was pretty crazy to me how, obviously Alabama had the highest ranked recruiting class of all time. And that came with on early signing day. They flipped arguably LSU's top 2 recruits in that class just out of nowhere. No one knew it was coming. They got JoJo Earl, who you see returning punts for Alabama, and Canoe Cott, if that's how you correctly say it. He's a defensive end there now. I think he's got a few reps, but just overall with recruiting, and as soon as it gets close to National Signing Day, you never really know what's going to happen. So
Dylan, let's go over to you, man. You obviously keep up with a lot of recruiting. Why don't you tell us a little bit about something insight that you found very interesting?
I think one of my favorite things that I've noticed that's kind of been a trend the last couple of years is like when a guy, has the table set up with all the hats and he kind of leans toward one hat and maybe even picks it up and then throws it. One of the first games I remember seeing that was, I think it was Takeon Reed. I don't remember exactly what his name was, but committed to Ole Miss, and he grabbed a Mississippi State hat and chucked it, and then ended up going to Ole Miss, and Ole Miss fans were eating that stuff up. But you see that kind of every year now, which is really cool. And then with like covering recruiting, I think the craziest story I can really talk about from this past summer, because I did a lot with Ducks Digest. There was a guy that decommitted from a school within the Pac-12. I'll try to keep it vague. I don't want to say his name, but there was a guy that decommitted from a Pac-12 school, and he had his phone number in his bio. So, I didn't have to necessarily direct message him like I do with a lot of people. And I called him, he answered, he said, "Who is this?" And I said, "Who I am," and went like 5 seconds, and then he hung up, and I tried to call back and he immediately hung up. So, and it's funny because he actually committed to Oregon now. So seemed to
That's
work.
crazy.
He didn't want you to leak. That's exactly what happened.
Yep, there you go.
All right, Liam, come on, man. Let's go over to you, man.
I mean, I used to be more into recruiting. I'm really not now. When I was kind of covering recruiting years ago, there were a bunch of recruits that would think I was like a coach at UCLA, and there were other players that thought I was a legit recruit, and they were asking me when I was going to visit UCLA, when like my official visit was. And I mean, I look like a kicker, if anything, right? I'm not a football player at all, never played the down. I could throw the ball real well, though, so I guess they saw great quarterback potential in me. Aside from that, what Dylan kind of went over there with the Ole Miss State hat debacle, whatever. And there's a ton of stories like that. One that sticks out to me as a UCLA fan is when Roquan Smith committed to UCLA. I was super hyped. You could say that's what kind of ended the recruiting game for me, is when he commits to UCLA and he basically gets held hostage in his own high school and is told not to sign with UCLA. You're going to Georgia, man. And so yeah.
I kind of got a bit of a heartbreaking story myself. So I was at the All-America game in San Antonio 2019. I believe it was the end of this one. Yes, had to have been 2018 or 2019. Actually, I think it was 2018, actually. So it was for the class of 2019 class. And I got to see one of the greatest quarterback performances of my life. Graham Mertz throwing 5 touchdown passes. Wisconsin commit. I was just going to this game just for fun. People that know me know I'm a huge Wisconsin guy. Saw him throw the 5 touchdowns, one of them to Blaylock, who went to Georgia. I went with one of our other contributors, Brian. He's a huge Georgia guy. So a Wisconsin to Georgia connection was awesome to see. And when he won the MVP when he won the All-American Bowl MVP, I kind of just sat there and I was just like, this is our guy. This is our guy. This is the quarterback of the future. This is Russell Wilson reincarnated. I have waited 24 years of my life for this exact moment. I could not believe it. We got a quarterback, and next thing we know, we are in 2021, and I think he only has one game of over 200 yards, 2 of them, but one of them he threw 4 interceptions, but that's a different story. So, that was awesome, really crazy to see. It was the next year that I got to see Jalen Berger make his commitment to Wisconsin. I think it's a funny story because, if you kept up with Wisconsin this year and their running back committee, he's just no longer there anymore. Like, he's not even at the university. I did see one. I just remember earlier today about Jacob Copeland, one of the greatest stories I think we're ever going to see. Makes his commitment to Florida, but these are the 3 hats that he had on his table: Florida, Alabama, Tennessee. His mother next to him wears a Tennessee beanie and an Alabama hoodie, and he chooses the school that is neither of those 2, and she just walks out. I made a lot of disappointing choices in my life, a lot of regrets, but one that causes my mother to hate me or hate my decision, Yeah, that's you can never visit again on Thanksgiving. That's for damn sure. Uh, Hayes,
Another
I
story
kind of
like
go for
another
it.
story like that. When you're talking about Copeland, something that just came to my mind. Uh, it was like 20. It had to be like 2010 or something like that. It's when Landon Collins was a senior. He was like a 5-star from Louisiana. So I mean, you're from Louisiana. A lot of the people want you to go to LSU and stuff like that. So he's committing on national TV at the Under Armour All American game, and he chooses Alabama. And his mom still has on like the LSU hat and everything. And like as soon as he picked Alabama, you could just tell she was like kind of upset. So the guy that was interviewing, kind of putting the commitment together, he asked her a question like, "You seem kind of upset or something." And I remember she was just going on and on about how he should have went to LSU and stuff like that. And it's pretty crazy that parents kind of some parents at least don't really support their son's decision.
There's one more I remember that just flew into my head, and Hayes, you might remember this too. It was actually this year, I believe it was Jaleel Florence, had this big presentation, and his family was there and had all the cards with the teams on them, and the host was going around interviewing family members about it, and put the mic up to the dad, and the kid hadn't made the announcement yet, and his dad's like, Oregon's gonna be glad to have him, and then you could just tell like he wasn't supposed to say that. And it went viral, and it was just hilarious, and I feel really bad for the kid for not being able to have his moment. His dad totally ruined it for him. So I guess that's a lighter story than the other ones where the parent looks like they resent their kid for the decision they made, but still, it's tough for the kid.
I will say this: growing up a Wisconsin guy, when I was playing high school football, my dad was like, "If you ever get recruited by a D1 school, uh, you are more than welcome to join the University of Minnesota, because that just gives me free ice fishing trips." So, kind of wish some parents had that lighthearted mentality. Hayes, were you trying to say something real quick?
No, I wasn't.
Okay, cool. So actually, I want to go into a bit of a topic that I'm very curious about. I just want to know what people in the recruiting world. I want their intake on this. So, like I said, I live here in Texas now. I keep up very closely with some of the high school that goes on with the high school players around here, and I've been going through a couple like recruiting boards of player rankings. Something that I just kind of find interesting: the difference between 2021 and let's say 2006, 2005 is that the Texas Longhorns football program used to be seen as the pinnacle, used to be seen as like top of the line, your Ivy League of football programs here in the state. It's no longer that way. You got the top two quarterbacks in the state. If you want to count Quinn Ewers in for 2022, even though now he's obviously now at Ohio State, the top three quarterbacks, none of them want to go to Texas. Denver Harris, he's kind of like split on Texas and Alabama. Kelvin Banks, Summer Creek guy, one of the top offensive line recruits in the not only the country but in the state but also the country, choosing to go to Oregon. Like I said, Cade Klubnik, he's going to Clemson. Connor Weigman is going to Texas A&M. Brian Anderson's going to Texas A&M. Quinn Ewers is going to Ohio State. I can go on and on. It just feels like that the modern day Texas is no longer what it used to be. It's not the pinnacle. Do you think you kind of like have an insight on that in terms of like why you think that happens? Why are the Texas Longhorns just not the same appeal that they used to be?
I would say, like, one, I know for a fact, I remember Quinn said in an interview, someone had asked him about that, and he was like, "Me and a lot of the top guys, we want to go somewhere, we want to win now," and stuff like that. And I mean, Texas, the past couple of years, they haven't been Texas like they're known as. You know what I'm saying? And I think Texas A&M, like ever since they moved to the SEC, that's really changed a lot of things for like recruiting in state. Because I mean, now you see Texas A&M having a better class every year than Texas, and I mean, right now they're honestly on pace to maybe even have the top class in 2022. So,
Do you think that Texas's move going into the SEC, do you think that's gonna put them on a better level with Texas A&M, or do you still think that they're still so far behind as a program in general that it's going to still take a really long time for them to reach over it? Because there are now situations where they're struggling with Oklahoma in their own state.
Yeah. I do think them going to the SEC is going to help, but obviously with that comes like big higher expectations, and the guys want to see proof that Texas is winning and stuff like that.
So I will just give my 2 cents in on this. I was October 9th, I was at the Alabama Texas A&M game. The very next week, I was at Texas Oklahoma State in Austin. And my biggest takeaway from visiting both campuses, both game day experiences, tailgating, everything into one. Obviously, I'm not a 5-star guy. They're not rolling out the red carpet for me. But when I was at A&M, it felt like a proper football school that just liked to party on the side. Like football was the main thing. You were there for Kyle Field. You were there for the atmosphere. You were there for, well, I'm not going to say as good a history as Texas, but they were in it for a culture. Whereas when I was in Austin, there were a couple bad things going into it. It was a party town first. It didn't feel like the Longhorns were first. It didn't feel like that the football program was number one in the line. It felt like a party town first that just happened to like football. That was the biggest thing for me. And I just think Austin as a city is just so growing as a cultural sense. It's not just people in Austin growing up. It's now it's a cultural city. It's a big tech city, one of the big fastest growing cities in the country, really, to the point where the college itself is starting to play second nature. Do you think that's also like another factor that plays into recruits making their commitments to big schools?
Yeah, I honestly do.
All right, so staying on the recruiting talk, let's go ahead. Let's just talk about our favorite recruit coming up. Who are we excited most to take it to the next level? Dylan, I know you're keeping up with it a lot. Are you gonna pick a Houston guy? Are you gonna pick Kelvin Banks, or who are you most excited for?
I do love Kelvin Banks. He's one of the most complete offensive linemen in the 2022 class. One guy that I'm actually going to pick, though, that also committed to Oregon is Tetiroa McMillan. He's kind of been skyrocketing up the charts. When he was, still a commit, and he still had his schools up in the air. He wasn't that super highly rated, but now I think he's top 30 in the class. And he's really proven this season, especially what he's capable of. He's 6'4", he's super fast, has a crazy catch radius, really good hands, really good feet. He's as good a receiver as Oregon's had coming in. And I think, now that they've had 2 decommitments at that position in the last couple of weeks, they're really going to need some production out of him once he gets to Eugene. But I'm really excited for the talent that he brings.
Hayes, I'm going to go over to you, man. What recruit in 2022 would you say that you're most excited for?
Man, I'm very excited to see Travis Hunter Jr. Currently committed to Florida State, and a lot of people kind of have speculation that he might flip to Georgia, but he's kind of made it known countless times that he's sticking with FSU. And, he could honestly play at the next level, cornerback and receiver. Like if you go watch his highlights of 7-on-7 and in game, he's just crazy on both sides of the ball.
All right, Liam, what about you, man? Do you got a favorite recruit going in?
Yeah, first off, I did just want to touch on the Texas thing real quick and just say I think another thing there is coaching stability, and players could be comfortable going to A&M because they know Jimbo's there for the long run. Whereas on Texas, we've seen the coaching changes year in and year out. I think stability.
We've seen the spider monkeys.
Yeah, I think stability is really big into that, and I just want to touch on that. And then the favorite and top recruit, like I really don't know much about recruiting, but someone that follows me on No Context, Jacob Hood, going to Georgia, 6'8", 350 offensive tackle. He's a 3-star. I don't care about the stars though. That's a really strong profile to build off of. And you're going to Georgia where he's going to be a mauler. So I'm excited to see his development. And then the Luther Burden, the wide receiver going to Mizzou from East St. Louis, excited for him. Getting a top receiver in the country to opt to play at one of the meh programs in Mizzou instead of going to the top, buried on the depth chart. You're not playing much in your first year like in Alabama. So going to Mizzou, you're going to see really quick production from Luther Burden. he should impact as a freshman. That's huge looking at that for his future NFL profile because his breakout age is going to be super young. That's big time. And just seeing a recruit stay home, want to see their program close to home get back to relevancy. I think Luther Burden at Mizzou is going to be super fun to watch. I hope he has a marvelous career.
So the guy that I'm really excited to watch, I feel like I've raved on this dude like 3 times this year already on a podcast. It's going to be Connor Weigman, Bridgeland High School, right here in Houston. I first saw him when Bridgeland played Klein Kane. It was on ESPNU, August 28th, I believe it was. I was just interested. I was like, okay, I know that Connor Weigman at the time was the top pocket passer in the country now that Quinn was able to finish a year early. So I was like, okay, let me just see how real this dude is. This dude had 7 touchdowns in the first half. That's insane. He had 4 touchdowns in the first half in terms of passing. He rushed for 2. He even received 1. He was a quarterback on a wide receiver. He was the wide receiver on a wide receiver screen, and he ran the thing 50 yards. I saw this dude also play against the Woodlands. This is how good this dude is. I got my ticket in at 7:00. Second I came in, 15 seconds were off, and he already threw a touchdown pass. This dude is mobile. The fact that he's labeled as a pocket passer is honestly somewhat of a disgrace. He's so good. He is one of the purest throws I think I've ever seen in person. Dylan got onto me because I said that he looked like Aaron Rodgers on a high school level. I think he's that good. And I think he's going to have a good opportunity at A&M over the next couple of years. We don't know. We obviously know what the health situation is at A&M right now. I don't know if you can rely on Haynes King to be healthy for the long run. Even Zach Calzada, who's gotten hurt a few times but was able to shake it off and come back. I think we're going to see a really good Connor Weigman going into A&M, and I really, truly believe that he has the potential to be the best quarterback Jimbo Fisher's ever coached. Yes, I know who he's coached, the Heisman guy back in 2013. And I truly believe that Connor can be just as good as Johnny Manziel. I firmly believe that. I have that high praise of Connor. I am super excited to see him. He's gonna be a great player. So let's go ahead and let's jump right into the next part. Let's go into the games for this weekend. Thursday night, this is going to come on a Thursday. We got UNC at Pitt. Liam, let me go over to you. What are your thoughts going into this game?
Well, I mean, coming off the big-time emotional win for UNC, it's tough to want to pick them here with the quick turnaround on a Thursday night game against a good Pitt team who's got a stingy defense. When you're looking at this game, man, Pitt's atmosphere stinks. Like, the home field advantage isn't anything here. It really isn't. But I think this game comes down to how awful UNC's O-line is and how much Sam Howell could actually get. I still think Howell's an incredible quarterback. I just don't think the help is really always there for him. Obviously, it was last week in a game of offense and nothing else. But I'm taking Pitt 38-30.
Dylan, let's go over to you, man.
Yeah, I mean, after watching, the defensive phenomenon that was the Wake Forest North Carolina game, how much fantastic defense was in that game. I like Pittsburgh's defense a little bit better to stop North Carolina's offense. I think Pittsburgh is the better offense at this point as well. So I would probably go by Pittsburgh, but I think it's going to be a close one.
Hayes, what's your take on this one?
Yeah, I think coming off a big win, like you said, against Wake Forest, I think Pitt's going to end up winning like 41-38.
So I think I'm going to go ahead and take Pitt on this one. Kenny Pickett, we trust, I guess we should rather say. I mean, I'm just going to go ahead and just be honest with you. Their UNC is just such a hit or miss offense. I cannot stress this enough, just how inconsistent they are. The team, the wide receiving core, UNC, just everything. I mean, they lost to Florida State for the love of God. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and just take Pitt. I just think Kenny Pickett just has that little bit more extra help on both sides of the ball. I'll take Pitt. SEC matchup, Mississippi State at Auburn. Hayes, I'm going to let you go ahead and do this one. What's your take on to this game?
I definitely have Auburn winning this one. Coming off of a pretty tough loss against A&M last weekend, I think Bo Nix and the Tigers are going to bounce back and win this by 2 touchdowns.
Liam?
I'm going with Auburn 27-19, kind of an ugly score for what should be a pretty ugly game. I mean, I can't question enough why Mississippi State was ranked last week, and their slide is going to continue against another tough defense in Auburn.
Dylan, let's go to you, man.
Yeah, I like Auburn in this one. I thought Mississippi State being ranked was kind of egregious. I thought we kind of saw the team that they were against Arkansas. I'm not sure that I think their offense will do what it's been doing all year against that, like you said, kind of stingy Auburn defense. So I like Auburn big in this one.
I'm just curious just what kind of bonus are we going to get? That's the main thing. But I'm going to go ahead and just take Auburn just to fly with
Nobody knows.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm going to just take Auburn just because I trust their defense a little more. I've seen Mississippi State's defense absolutely collapse at the worst times this year. So, yeah, I'm going to take Auburn. Jordan O'Hare, yeah, let's go ahead with that. Michigan at Penn State. I'll go ahead and start with this one. Penn State stinks. That's the nice way to put it. I see a lot of people in Penn State complaining about why they're not ranked. Like, dude, you lost 3. You lost to Illinois in 9 overtimes in one of the ugliest games all season. That was primetime Big Ten football right there. I'm gonna take Michigan. I think they're gonna come out with a little bit of vengeance. I still think they're a really good team. I do not agree that they should be ranked ahead of Michigan State, but I'll take Michigan. I just think they're a better team, and they'll go into Happy Valley with the win. Liam, I'll go to you on this one.
I think Penn State does have a case to be ranked, even though they lost to Illinois. I'll say that. I mean, 3 losses, yeah, but how many other teams are out there in the top 25 with 3 losses ahead of them that don't have as many good wins as they do? Like, the committee doesn't know what they're doing. They're picking and choosing what's important at what time and what's not important at one time. This is a discussion for another pod and everything. And I respect your take that Penn State shouldn't be ranked, but they should be ranked. I think they win this game.
No, they shouldn't.
They'll be ranked after they beat Michigan. They're going to beat Michigan. I'll take Penn State 24-17. The Michigan collapse, it's happening. I really don't know how you could pick Michigan in this game. We've seen collapses like this too many times. We've seen this story every year, it seems.
Dylan, let's go to you, man.
99% of seasons I would pick against Michigan because I've always been a Michigan hater. I'm always on the same board as Liam. Like, I think they're going to choke. I think, they have a good start and then it fades away. There's something about this team that I feel like it's a little bit different. I love their defense. Their run game is obviously, what's carried them a long way, but the offense, the passing offense showed its capabilities against Michigan State. Now, granted, Michigan State's passing defense is terrible. But Michigan, I think this is a much better team under Jim Harbaugh than we've seen. And I don't really like Penn State's ability to put up a lot of points against Michigan's defense, even though it's at Happy Valley. I'm going to go Michigan in this one.
Hayes, what you got on this one?
Yeah, I got Michigan as well.
Good.
What do you know? We're all going with the top 10 team against the unranked team. What ranked shocker? Except for that one person in here who says
that's how we want it.
The one person who says that he doesn't know how a person could pick Michigan. Well, I mean, I think we kind of all made our case here. Let's go over. Right? Let's go to the next one. We got Oklahoma at Baylor. Baylor coming off with a devastating loss in the Holy War against TCU this past weekend. Dylan, I'm going to go off and start with you, man. What do you got on this one?
I don't really know why I'm going with Baylor in this one, but I'm going to go with Baylor in this one. I think even after losing to TCU last week, I feel like the momentum, just them being at home, Oklahoma being, they're 8th, but in the college football playoff picture, I just feel like it screams spoiler and it screams upset to me. I'm going to go with Baylor in this one.
Hayes, what about you, man?
2 words, Caleb Williams. Oklahoma by 3 touchdowns.
3.
Yes, 3.
Yeah, there's some stuff here. Like, Oklahoma, noted college football expert Jay Billis has them in his playoff. Let's go, Jay. I don't think OU's a playoff team. I'm actually on Dylan's side here. I have no clue why I'm picking Baylor, aside from the fact I don't want Oklahoma in the playoff. As fun as Caleb Williams is, I don't want Oklahoma in the playoff. I'm taking Baylor 38-35. I think we're going to see a good game from Abram Smith, but also, like, I don't understand how RG3 has Abram Smith as a top 5 Heisman candidate. He's showing his bias there with that, but I think Baylor does win this game on a late field goal.
Fair credit to Baylor. They do have among the best rushing offenses in the country. I think they have the best in the Big 12. Correct me if I'm wrong on this one. Honestly, I have an anti-Oklahoma agenda going on for the rest of the year. So I'm just going to go ahead and just say Baylor. I don't have any statistical analysis to back this up, but I'm going to take Baylor over Oklahoma. This is going to be Jerry Bohannon, he's going to do a replay. He's going to do repeat. He's going to be 2011 RG3 when they beat Oklahoma that year. I don't have any evidence to back that up, but I will speak it to existence. Let's go over to Purdue at Ohio State. Purdue is a different team when they play unranked teams than when they play ranked teams. They have beaten Michigan State. They've beaten Iowa when they were all in the top 10. Not this year. Not this time. Not this time. No, Ohio State, CJ Stroud, the offense has been a little slacky over the last couple of weeks after getting off to such a blazing recovery since the Oregon loss. I'll take Ohio State at the shoe. They'll find their stride. Purdue, not this time. You're on the road. Dylan, I'll go to you on this one.
I'm going to pull a Hayes here, and I'm going to go 2 words, CJ Stroud. I think Ohio State wins by 35 at least.
Isn't that somewhat 3 words?
3 syllables, I guess.
Liam.
2 words, David Bell. No, I'm taking Ohio State 44-24. If Purdue wins, if the spoiler makers pull off another one, like, just put them in the playoff. I don't care if they finish the season 7-6 or whatever. They'd have 3. I'm kidding. Yeah, Ohio State by 20.
Sure, they couldn't beat Wisconsin, but sure, let's.
Hey, that, like you said, they played down to their opponent.
You know what? To be fair, Wisconsin was unranked at that time, so I'll give them some credit for that one. If they played each other today, then I'd be scared. Hayes, let's go to you, man.
Yeah, I got Ohio State as well. I just don't see Purdue coming in and beating them.
Okay, so this game, Liam, I don't know why you put this on our slate, okay, but
I'm not
UAB at Marshall, man. Like, I'm gonna go ahead. I'll start with this one just because I got the best 3-word analysis of all time for UAB at Marshall. This is my analysis on UAB. 3 words: loss to Rice. Marshall wins this game big. And Liam, since you've got such strong feelings on this one, I'll let you take the floor on this.
I didn't put this game on the list, but I like that it's there. Also, the slate this week stinks, so this was definitely worthy of being there. These are 2 teams fighting in the Conference USA. I wasn't high on UAB going into the year. Marshall's expectations for the season were to go undefeated. They've already dropped 3 games, so that ain't happening. I'm taking Marshall here 27-20. I think defenses will be really good here. Xavier Gaines, the guy to look at. Marshall, tight end, super versatile. He's very good. Ali's another good player. We'll see how Grant Wells does at quarterback, but the guy I look at when I look at Marshall is cornerback, as I've talked about him so much on our podcast and everything. Stephen Gilmore, the brother of Stephon Gilmore. That bloodline is great, isn't it? Brother of a shutdown corner for years in the NFL. I think he's got a bright future in the NFL as well, Stephen Gilmore. And then for UAB, get Trey Shropshire involved more. Really good receiver, really good frame. I think he's 6'3" or 6'4". I don't know. But I think he's a really good receiver that needs more work. So I would get Shropshire involved more.
Dylan, let's go to you on this game, man.
Yeah, so I was the reason why this game is being talked about right now.
Jackass.
Well, there's the explicit button for this episode. I have never picked against UAB while we've been picking games, whether it be a bowl game, whether it be, that's probably the only occasion we've ever picked UAB. Hayes, who's your pick for this one?
I got UAB. I don't even know why. I'm just saying UAB. Have not even watched UAB or Marshall at all this year, so
Okay, great. So let's go to the next one. Texas A&M at Ole Miss. This is where College Station. I mean, this is where College Game is going to be at. In Oxford, one of the best college towns in the country. Uh, Hayes, I'll go to you on this one. You're obviously in the SEC territory. A&M and Ole Miss. What you got?
A&M, because I think, Ole Miss definitely has that high power offense, but I really think A&M's defense is just that good, and they're going to stop Ole Miss Saturday.
Liam, let's go over to you.
All right, for Ole Miss, it's about getting healthy. So if they're healthy on the offensive side of the ball, I have no issue seeing them win this game, and I'll assume that they will be healthy for this one after kind of coasting past Liberty and winning that game on the strength of their defense. As odd as that is to say about an Ole Miss team, but yeah, I think Lane Kiffin's just going to scheme up a really good game here, and he's going to be the reason that why they take down this A&M defense, this great defense. So I'll take Ole Miss 34-24.
Dylan.
Yeah, I would assume it's a pretty similar score. I think Matt Corral needs to have, if he's in this Heisman conversation, which I think he's starting to slip out of it a little bit, I think that he really needs to have a Heisman-like performance against a really good defense like this. College game day, huge game for the SEC and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to go with Ole Miss. I think Matt Corral has his best performance of the year.
I've already seen the Texas A&M defense in person against one potential Heisman quarterback from the SEC. I think they're going to put up another good one this week. I'll take Texas A&M over Ole Miss. Matt Corral just needs to turn it up. He just has to play the best game of his career. That's just the other way to believe it. One of my guys who is an Ole Miss grad, he's scared right now for this Ole Miss team because you're going up against this stout Texas A&M defense, and Ole Miss does not have any scholarship wide receivers available. That was my intake. I was like, oh there you go. That you just gave me my pick for this weekend. Let's go over to NC State at Wake Forest. We're going to be seeing a pretty stout NC State defense. Well, we saw Wake Forest defense last week. We're not even going to go into that. Hayes, I'm going to let you have this one. Your pick for NC State at Wake Forest.
I got Wake Forest. I think they're going to bounce back after that emotional loss against UNC, and I really like how Sam Hartman's played all season. So I got Wake Forest. Give me 35-24.
Liam, what's your take?
Went for a higher scoring game. I went Wake Forest 45-38. It's also great that last week's loss against UNC meant nothing outside of the playoff picture for them. This loss doesn't hurt them in conference play because that's a non-conference play. So let's just make fun of that again, like having ASU and Colorado play basketball in China for a non-conference game years ago in Pac-12. Love making fun of that stuff. But yeah, for Wake Forest here, I mean, what's the key? Who's their best player? Is it Sam Hartman or is it Ja'Cory Roberson? I think it's Ja'Cory. I think you have to get him the ball more. They really didn't get him the ball against UNC until late. He had that remarkable touchdown early in the game. I think that was only his third reception. And then he his stats in garbage time when they were, trying to fight back, scratch and claw in that game, he ends with 7 catches on 11 targets for 111. But they weren't giving him the ball enough. This is your best player. This is your best opportunity to win. He's one of the best receivers in the country. Get him the ball and let him eat. So throw it to Ja'Cory Roberson. You'll win this game.
All right, Dylan, what's your take?
Ditto to what Liam said. I'm going to go with Wake Forest.
2 words, Ja'Cory Roberson.
This just I don't know why I'm going with NC State here. I just trust their defense a little more. I think this is going to be the best defense that Wake Forest has played all season. I don't care what you say about Army. This is just a really tough game. This just seems to be one of those games where a team gets a really hot start to the season. They lose one game and they start to crumble down a little bit. And I see a little better than Wake here. I'll take NC State in a close one here. Notre Dame at UVA. Hayes, I'll let you go on this one. Irish going to Charlottesville.
I think Notre Dame pulls this one out. Give me 45-21.
Dylan?
I think that I'm going to go with Virginia because I have not been a fan of Notre Dame this whole year. And I think that Virginia kind of, shakes things up a little bit in the playoff. I feel like Brennan Armstrong is going to have a monster game. He's my player focus. I'll talk about him later. I'm going Virginia in this one by 2 scores.
Liam.
How about I just don't give you guys a pick, and then I could submit my pick on Friday. I don't have a pick here yet. I don't, because Brendan Armstrong, I don't know if he's playing. I don't know if he's playing or not. We know against BYU, the injury is undisclosed. We know against BYU it's a rib injury. We saw him limping off the field and pointing to his ribs and saying they're broken. He's questionable to play. I have to wait and see if he's playing. If Brendan is playing, like Dylan, he would have been my player focus. I would, like Dylan too, I would pick UVA if Brendan is playing. I'm also not high on Notre Dame, but if Brendan's not playing, there's no shot in picking UVA. So I have to wait and see if Brendan Armstrong plays. I wish I had a pick, but if he really doesn't play, then I there is no way that I could pick UVA. And on Notre Dame side, Michael Mayer should have a monster game regardless.
I completely forgot about that with Brennan Armstrong. Now I'm reconsidering.
Yeah, I can't pick yet. I don't know what to do.
Is this the one game of the year where it really feels like the one player status determines the entire thing? Because I feel like that's what we're dealing with here. I'm struggling here. We saw his injury against BYU. I thought he was gonna. I mean, don't get me wrong. When he did play, he played very well. But I thought he was gonna stay healthy the whole game, and he made BYU's defense completely non-existent. But Notre Dame, and that hurts. Even if Brennan's playing, it's really, if Brennan was 100% healthy, I would take UVA, no issue. Even if he's playing, it's just so hard to tell. I'll take Notre Dame.
Yeah,
but I'm not happy about it.
Yeah, it's terrible to have to pick. Like, it's UVA hasn't had another quarterback throw over like 10 passes all season, obviously, but they've had multiple guys throw the ball. Receiver Dontavian Wicks has thrown the ball. Keaton Thompson has thrown the ball, the former quarterback at Mississippi State. We don't know who the quarterback is going to be. Is it going to be Thompson? Is it going to be this wildcat kind of game where the football guy is playing QB, as Bronco Mendenhall gives his players the position football guy, which Keaton is a Woolfolk going to play quarterback? We have no idea if Armstrong doesn't play.
So let's go over to the next game. Pretty big game, actually, especially on the West Coast. Nevada at San Diego State. Liam, I know you're about to grab your Carson Strong foam finger pretty quick here. Just give us your insight on this one.
I think it's in the other room. Look, man, this went very, very well. Dylan, you got your Fresno State win over Nevada a few weeks ago. Your agenda grew. I got what I needed last week. The Boise State win over Fresno State. Needed that badly. Nevada and San Diego State now both control their own destiny in the Mountain West Division. The winner of this game is, in all likelihood, going to the Mountain West championship game. Nevada needs to, after what they did last week against San Jose State, which was so embarrassing to watch. Jay Norvell needs to show why people think he's a Power 5 coach. I don't think he is. He needs to show people why, though, and prove that. I'm taking Nevada 27-17. San Diego State, they're going to play ball possession. They're going to play good defense. It's going to be ugly. I didn't like San Diego State's effort last week against Hawaii. Again, when you look at San Diego State, their offense is abysmal. It's an offense that is so bad that I can't rank them despite their record because their offense is so terrible. Their best player is the punter, the kicker, the generational special teams wizard, Matt Ariza. We need to show him more love. He's phenomenal. He really is one of the few players in the country that could dictate a game based on field position. Like, he's booting 80-yard punts and could flip the entire field like crazy. But I mean, Carson Strong to Romeo Dubs all day long. But I think right here we're going to see Cole Turner get 2 touchdown receptions.
Hayes, what's your thought on this one?
Oh, I have San Diego State winning this one, actually. I don't know how much I'm gonna predict them winning by, but I just have them winning.
Dylan.
Yeah, I mean, I've been high on Nevada as well, mostly because of Liam talking about them pretty much every episode at this point. If I would have put a bet that he would have gone on a rant, not a rant, but a long tangent about Cole Turner, I would have made some money right there. But I'm gonna go with Nevada too. I can't stand San Diego State's offense. It's ugly to watch. It's not fun. I think Nevada's offense is gonna put up more points
So
than
bad. It's so bad.
it's gross. So I'm gonna go Nevada.
So as far as this game goes, I will say this: the committee is okay. This is a little harsh. I was going to say that the committee is never going to see heaven, but that's pretty sinful to say. But when the committee is taking the escalators up to heaven, I pray to God that St. Peter is going to ask some serious questions to them for still ranking San Diego State over the likes of Houston, over the likes of UTSA last week. All right. Shout out UTSA for finally getting your respect somewhat. 23 is still mad disrespectful. I'm taking Nevada here. Carson Strong, he's been great these last couple weeks. He's won me a couple prop bets. And you win me prop bets, you're forever on my love list. So I'm gonna go ahead and just take Nevada here. I just cannot stand San Diego State. They're not as good as the record says. Okay, I will die on this hill. All right, and now in order, let me calm myself down here. Okay, I had to result of Buddhism for a little bit. All right, so now we are going to the player focus. Hayes, this is just our thing of like, give us one player that you're focusing on for the weekend, who you think is going to have a big game statement. Who is one player that you are really focusing on to have a big weekend?
I would probably have to say, even though I'm picking against him, I'm gonna have to say Matt Corral with Ole Miss. Like y'all said earlier, he's a big Heisman contender, and he hadn't really shown anything to like really, put him in that conversation. Yeah, he's been falling down the ranks, and I think a statement win and a good performance against against A&M will kind of, bring him back in.
Dylan, let's go to you on this one, man.
Well, I already said mine, but then Liam
Sorry.
Brennan Armstrong got hurt against BYU, and now I'm confuzzled. But I think, the one game I really would like to watch, but I can't because I don't have ACC network, is the NC State Wake Forest game. I think if NC State's going to pull it off, I think Devin Leary is going to have to outperform Sam Hartman. He's going to have to kind of reach into his bag and, do kind of what he did against Clemson earlier in the year and throw to his two best receivers. I'm not picking NC State to win, but I think, Devin Leary is going to be the big key there. So he's my impromptu player focus for this week.
Liam, I feel like your player focus is the guy that's on your foam finger, but go ahead and prove me wrong.
No, not a shot. Not focusing in on a player in that game where San Diego State's offense is playing and takes up so much clock and doesn't move the ball. Yeah, not doing that. That's boring. Going with something fun, because he was really fun last week in the super fun game of the year, UTSA UTEP. I'm going with Jacob Cowing, the receiver at UTEP. He made a strong impression on me in week 0, and he's only built off that. He's done so well. Last week against UTSA, he was super impressive yet again with his just run after the catch ability. He's dynamic, he's slippery, he's mad elusive. You can't tackle him. There's a highlight where he catches the ball on the sideline and he kind of weaves his way out there towards midfield, cuts up. He's a sensational talent that deserves more love. He's got 46 grabs this year for 923, 4 touchdowns. That's 20.1 yards per catch. That's lethal. He really is one of the best receivers at the group of 5 level. He needs more recognition. His footwork is supreme. He's a really fun player to watch, and his contested catch ability is really good. He's really burst onto the scene this season. Playing North Texas this week, we should be able to see him get some stats. But he is another guy that did get hurt. He did get hurt against UTSA, so I'm going to have to monitor his health. But what UTEP is saying is he should be 100%, missed a few practices, but should be 100% for the game. Good to go. Expecting Jacob Cowing to actually have a touchdown grab in this game, which he hasn't been able to do because UTEP loves around the ball in the red zone. But yeah, give me Cowing for like 7 grabs for 120 plus.
So my player focus of the week is a running back who I wrote about earlier in the season. I'm really huge on this guy. Still am. Aguilan are saying that he deserves the Heisman. Slow down. I called him a dark horse. All right, I didn't say he was the winner, but that is of course Isaiah Spiller. I think Isaiah Spiller is a really talented running back. He's had 3 straight 100 rushing yard games. He came up with a couple big plays against Alabama in their win. He had 95 yards against Mississippi State. He had 100 yards against Arkansas in those 2 losses. He is a really good running back. I think he has a really good opportunity to slash, I guess is what I'm trying to say, lack for a better word, for on this Ole Miss defense. If A&M's going to go into Oxford and pull off this win, they're going to need Isaiah Spiller. I don't know how healthy Zach Calzada is going into this game, so they're going to be leaning on him quite a bit. The offensive line for A&M is finally coming together. Isaiah Spiller, I think he's going to have a big game. I think he'll have a couple catches in the backfield also. It's Spiller time, Aggieland. So that essentially closes it out for this episode of the Transfer Portal podcast presented by NoContextCFB. Guys, did I leave out anything? What else? Anything that we got to mention?
Hayes, what are your socials?
You mean? Oh, what are my socials? Oh, my socials. My Twitter and Instagram. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Hayes Fawcett 3, HAYES FAWCETT, and the number 3. I'm posting all recruiting content as it happens, so go give me a follow there.
All right, awesome. Good to hear. All right, guys, thank you again for listening to this episode. We will see you guys later in the next week.
And like and subscribe.